Welcome to Dr. Roger and Friends, the bright side of longevity, hosted by 3 Ps in a podcast, Doc Roger, Teresa, and Danielle. Thanks for joining us for Coffee and Conversation.
You know that in the past we have talked about being socially connected as being very, very important. This is in our work with the bright side of longevity, and that's very important, being face to face. And we're getting a big dose of it now. Certainly not in large groups because many of us can't even get out of our houses. But with those we live with, our families, our spouses, maybe our animals, maybe they're getting tired of us also, or at least it's a new relationship. So that's a challenge for us, and that's one we don't want to ignore because we're hearing that in China divorces are soaring from the time when people were unable to get out and were in their homes with their family, spouses, and things for long periods of time, and so now we're experiencing it. So let's talk about some of that stress that comes with being in a closed space with people we love, but perhaps are not used to spending so much time with. So what do you think, Danielle?
Well, and that really struck a chord with me. I felt really bad when I heard that news in China, just about, and such a short time of people, but within a month of being together, they're like, we're done. So I feel for friends and people I know who have difficult relationships in the best of times. But, anybody could go through this. I'm in a very happy marriage. I am so lucky. But one of the things I noticed that with being at home is we stress differently. So when I'm watching the news, within 5 minutes, I'm bawling my eyes out and I'm like, I just need a hug, and whereas John is much more, he internalizes, he could kind of knows how to keep a healthy distance so not getting wrapped up in it. I could probably learn from that. So it's learning how we stress differently. I've had a couple of friends of mine who, one person must talk about everything that's happening. That's the way they feel better. And their partner is, I need to turn off the news. I need to turn off the phone. I need to go meditate and don't talk to me for an hour. But the other person's like, but we need to talk. So for me, I guess my message for today is simple, is number one, just recognizing that we stress differently and it's nothing personal. And second, how can we adapt how we communicate with each other? Can we come up with some ground rules like, hey, if I can have this hour to myself, then you can vent as much as you need to for the next hour, or just finding that common ground is going to be so critical to getting through this and maintaining those happy and healthy relationships.
So true, Danielle. We have a rule book that we have written, and it exists in our mind for many of our close relationships. And maybe we don't tell them, but we certainly have a rule book in terms of how they should behave and how things should be. And the truth is that we can't control anybody, including the people that we are married to. So what if we just don't argue with that reality and let them be exactly 100% however they are? Right. And maybe if you need someone to talk out every detail of the news with, maybe that's a friend who you could call who would also love to do that with you, and the two of you could process together. But, expecting the people we love to be different than who they are is not going to help us. So we can exert lots of energy and effort toward controlling them and changing them. But let's face it, we can redirect our energy and effort into much more positive ways that it actually can be successful. Because as far as I know, there is no way to control anybody.
That's for sure. I kind of am experienced a little bit with this. As you know, I had a career in the military and I was gone a lot. But when I took a new job and that allowed me to work from home, I said, won't my wife, Paula, be so happy to have me at home? I honestly thought that was going to be the case. Now, there's nothing wrong with our relationship. We've been married 50 years. But boy, was I wrong. And so that took major accommodation and adjustment, and that it took some time to work out, but it happened. But this is happening very, very quickly to people who've never experienced it before. And then you put children in the mix and pets in the mix, and the energy of I have grandsons, the young boys who need to be athletic every day, they're just different people, and they're volcanoes ready to blow, and in a good way, but with energy, And so it's a time of adjustment. And I think it's a time of listening and realizing that things can't be the way you want it. Just as you said, you can't be in control, as Teresa said. And that, anything else, if it's just about you and what you want, well, you're not going to get that. So you better sit down at the table and work things out.
I always love your number one advice for relationships, Roger, which is you say it.
Well, you better, because I say so many things.
Well, my favorite is give up the need to be right.
Oh, yes.
I think we're a little bit talking about that here.
Yes, absolutely. I do. And I think that is probably in a normal situation, that is the magical formula for having substantive social relationships of any kind. It's close or intimate or just acquaintances and friends, but it is. And that gets in the way, the need to be right. That's a control thing, among other things. And, you let things go and things flow in. It's amazing.
Well, and that's what I was going to say. You actually reminded me. So a little side story. I think it's okay to tell this story. So when John and I first got married, we were single for a long time. We had our independent houses. We did everything the way we wanted to do it. And now we're living together. In the first 2 months, it was amazing how every little thing was annoying, and it was nobody was wrong or right. It was just, I do it this way and you do it that way. And I remember one day we were talking in the kitchen and we were fussing about something totally goofy. I don't even remember what it was. And we both at the same time went, and it was like we had this meeting of the minds, like, it's not worth it. And so ever since that day, it was like 99% of the time, it's not worth it. And so now as we're all thrown together.
You don't mean the relationship isn't worth it.
No. The argument about where things are positioned in the house or who lives what on the counter, not worth it.
I think the major thing is that we want to acknowledge this is a time of stress for everybody. All of our worlds have changed. What's happening inside your house is changing also. And I think it's very important that we acknowledge this major event that's happening to all of us at the same time, because we're all in it together, and realize that it's time to be open and open to the needs of others as well as our own. And I think particularly important for children, but I think for everybody to realize that there's a new reality and new rules, as you said, Danielle. And so that what happens in that house is going to allow you to be strong and be able to weather this and give you resilience. It's very important because we are being challenged.
And just a shout out to all the widowed or single people who are listening to this, wishing that they had anybody in their house, people who are living alone. There is a sense of we're in this together in this house that people who are living with people have, and some people have a very empty, quiet house and perhaps even a heightened sense of fear because of that. So shout out to them. To Danielle's point, do count your blessings and reach out. You're only alone if you believe that you're alone. So reach out over the phone. No risk in contaminating anyone that way, and call your connections and check on them, and just bring a little joy to someone else's life. And in turn, you bring so much joy to your own.
The difference between being alone and being lonely. Thank you very much. it seems like everyone's getting very excited about breaking out, starting their life again, and there are restrictions, but what are they? And so there's a lot of misinformation, a lot of great desire to resume your normal lives, but there's some tricks to that, and there's some potential bad and consequences if we rush it. So I'm going to turn it right over to Teresa. You have some thoughts about guiding people through this mire?
It's so interesting. There's mixed messages. There's a lot of confusion and anger. And now it seems like people seem to be aligning into different camps. And the last thing we need is to be polarized, I think, more. But it is completely our choice to feel impatient, angry, to disagree with the store's policy, to disagree with one's governor's policy. That's totally our right to feel any of those ways. But I think the bigger question is whether we want to feel that way. And if not, it's completely in our hands to feel differently always. The reality is that it's different everywhere, especially as we partially reopen and various businesses are allowed to reopen and they're trying to figure out how to comply with new rules. But arguing with reality has no upside.
No.
And it uses up so much brain power and energy and time. And generally, it makes us feel awful.
I think this is the scourge of all of us, don't you think, no matter what the topic?
Arguing with reality. Yep. But patience is always a feeling that we can generate. Like any other feeling, we can generate any feeling we want to. Even when we're wearing a mask that we'd rather not be wearing, and even when we're standing in a long line with angry, impatient people, which that can be contagious too. But that feeling of patience is always available to us. It's a choice, and it always stems from the thoughts that we choose to think about any situation, and that is truly our superpower. Our brains can easily get stuck in that negative spin cycle, looping on anger and impatience. But we can have higher expectations and ask more of our brains. The challenge, I think, is to ask our brains to come up with the thoughts that generate feelings of patience and try those on for size, see which ones feel true and authentic to you, and which ones actually generate the feeling that you want to feel. The truth is that every store is going to be different. The lines are going to be long. That's the reality. And that can be time spent, spinning in impatience and anger, or it can be time spent, listening to our favorite music or catching up on a podcast or listening to an audiobook, or sometimes I just like to be alone with our thoughts. But I guess my point is that the choice is always ours.
Yeah. And I think emotions are so heightened because people are been stuck inside. They are getting impatient. They're getting restless and perhaps a little more hypersensitive than they normally are. And businesses, likewise, the staff are struggling because they're trying this new protocol they've never tried before. In some businesses, they have like a 17-stage plan for reopening and how they're going to keep people safe over the course of a month. So it's a lot for everybody to deal with. And I do think it's a good time to remember patience and respect. It was so interesting. I found this meditation on Insight Timer, and I was intrigued by the title, How to Deal with an Annoying Person. And it was so profound. He made this statement and he said, my path may be different from your path, but my path can extend to your path. So we can truly believe differently than our neighbor, but we can still be respectful. Some of the concerning things that I'm hearing from people that I know are when, for example, someone goes to the grocery store and now there are arrows, go this way, not that way, to keep everyone distance, and somebody accidentally goes down because they didn't know the arrow was there. It was never there before, and somebody else starts yelling at them. Or if somebody is standing in line really close and another person says, hey, can you stand 6 feet away? There's a marker. And then they turn around and get in your face and yell at you. It's just, you can exercise your right, but how hard is it to be respectful to other people? If you see someone wearing a mask, maybe you probably can assume they don't want you to get too close. For me, when I find myself getting a little impatient, one of the things I remember are times when I wasn't my best self, and hungry, tired,